Okay. So we're on the fourth introduction, and we are up to the pasuk that says, "Amar hakasav b'tach b'Hashem b'asei tov shachan eretz emunah." Trust in Hashem and do good. Dwell in the land and be nourished by faith. But Amar, and it says further, "Tov Hashem lakovav lenefesh tidrushenu," and it says similarly in Eicha, "The Lord is good to those who await Him, to the soul that seeks Him." So these two verses are quoted as further proof that bitachon must be accompanied with observance of the mitzvahs. The first promises reward to a person who not only trusts in God, but also does good. Similarly, the second verse states that Hashem is good to those who wait, meaning those who have bitachon. But then it adds to the soul that seeks Him, implying that bitachon itself is insufficient, and the person must also seek God through the observance of mitzvah. Yeah? Is that clear? But, however, mi sheyivtach al habore, as for a person who relies on the Creator for his needs, but who mamre also, and he rebels against Him, neglecting the observance of mitzvahs, kama hu sachol, kama dato chalusha v'hakaroso, how foolish he is and how weak are his knowledge and understanding. Ki hu roa, because the person knows, ki mishim is manelo mibnei adam al davar, if someone is appointed by another to do a specific task, kshehu mitzaveh also lehitasek b'tzorech mitzrachav, whether he is instructed to involve himself in one of the other person's needs, or mazhiro tomidavar, or if he's instructed to refrain from a certain matter, v'yavor al mitzvotav, and that person goes against his commandments, v'yagia lemamane avro al mitzvotav, and that he's done that gets back to the person who originally commanded him to do that, ki yiya hasiba chazaka lihmana mimenu, that will be a very strong grounds for him to refrain from doing what he had promised him to do. Let's say if you appoint someone to do a task for you, or you put someone in a position where you're saying, just whatever you do, don't do that thing, and then it comes back to your ears that the person has actually gone completely against you and done the opposite of what you'd said. Are you still going to pay him or give him what you promised to do that thing? No. The kol shekain, if this applies with respect to reliance on human being, Misha over al chokei halakim mitzvotav, all more so would it apply to someone who disobeys Hashem's statutes, asher ya'ed v'hayid alehem, which he designated for observance and warned us about them. Which he designated for observance and warned us about them. Then the hopes of one who relied on Hashem in that circumstance will be dashed when he rebels against Him. He will not be fitting to be classified as a person who relies upon Hashem. Rather, he is like the person about whom the pasuk says in Eov, what is the hope of a flatterer, that he will rob? When God casts off his soul, will Hashem hearken to his cry? And it says in Yirmiyahu, will you steal and murder and commit adultery and then swear falsely? But Omar Yirmiyahu, and it says further in Yirmiyahu, Uvatem, and you will come, and you have the guts to come to my house, which my name is called on it, as if to say, what, you coming to the Beis Hamikdash to pray when you've been robbing and stealing and violent and hurting others, But Amar Yirmiyahu, and it says in Yirmiyahu, has this house upon which my name is called become a cave of degenerate men? So, although the sinner has bitachon, the verse says that's not effective on its own. And as the verses continue to show, even if that person comes to the Beis Hamikdash, it will not serve as a protection for him. So I don't know if any of you have any thoughts on that, but I heard something very interesting in this week's Sedra, which was about the promise between Yaakov and was it Avimelech? No, it was Yaakov and Lavan, that he was in his house and he said, "Oh, what, you're not going to give me my wife and my children?" And he ends up running away in the middle of the night with his daughters and all his possessions. And Lavan comes chasing after him and has a whole argument with him, like, "What do you think, you were leaving me?" And Lavan exemplifies all these things, that he Lavan, he bleaches everything and he whitewashes, we'd call it whitewashing now. He whitewashes all his actions. He goes, I was never going to steal anything from you. I would have given you more. I would have made you so welcome. No, he wouldn't have. He was happy to steal everything. So Yaakov had to leave in the night. But Lavan says, I'll swear by my God and you swear by your God. And they make a wall. And it's a very interesting thing. They made a stones into a wall and Yaakov poured oil on it. And they made like an oath. And he says, this wall is going to be my aid. So it says here, V'heyed alehem. So much more so will Hashem, will it apply to someone where Hashem has been made a witness in this? Like Hashem says to us, he took Avraham into the outside of his tent and he says, look at the stars and look at the sands, the Shemayim Aretz, they're going to be the witnesses. They are the Edim. So in the absence of people, Hashem made things the Edim, to say the circumstances around you. You know, when we say in Yoshev B'Seter Elyon, that the very things, the scorpions, the snakes, stones under your feet will not hurt you because they're Edim. They are all nature, all of the world is all part of the testimony of Hashem, whether we're following his wishes or not. So in this Sedra, in the Parsha of Vayetze, the Eid was a wall that they built out of stones. And how did it become a witness? So I heard in Shul, and I think the rabbi told us this, that, do you know what this wall was? This wall was the wall that Bilam crashed into with his donkey, and it wouldn't let him pass. And he was coming to curse the Bnei Israel, and the wall itself was an aid to say, you will not curse the Bnei Israel. It stopped him. So I found that really interesting because there's also a medrash about, I don't know if you ever heard about the cat and the well. There's a story about a man who was traveling to Yerushalayim for the Regalim, and he met a girl on the way and they fell in love and he promised to marry her, but there were no Edim, so they couldn't get married. So he said, well, I make the Edim, the cat and the well. And he didn't keep his promise. He ended up marrying somebody else, but one of his children was killed by a wild cat and the other one drowned in a well until he remembered his promise and had to do teshuvah for it. So it's just interesting that this part of bitachon is that you have to have bitachon, but you also have to do what you said you were going to do. You have to be authentic. And when you say you're going to do something, you have to show up and do it. So I don't know why that came to me just now, but I thought I'll share that with you. I don't know if any of you want to share anything around that or comment.
I just want to, when you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. What about if you didn't manage? I mean, sometimes you promise that you're going to do, like, let's say I'm just thinking before Shabbat, I thought, oh, I'll light the candle a bit before, and I could never manage to do that.
So if you make a commitment in your head, that's one thing. If you say words are very powerful. And from my understanding of it, that's why we say the word bli neder when we commit to do a mitzvah. Always try and say bli neder because we don't want to be held to account. Because it's not like Hashem wants to punish us, but our words take on some kind of energy which demands that of us then. So we have to show up for that. And all of us did say the words Na'aseh v'nishma at Sinai. So we are held accountable, whether we like it or not, for showing up and doing the mitzvahs. Now, whether or not we can do all the mitzvahs, I don't think there's a possibility for any one person to do all 613 mitzvot. There isn't, because some are for men, some are for women, some are for kohanim. So it stands to reason, in my view, that Hashem only expects of us what we can do in the moment as a human being that he created us to be, with our frailties, with our vulnerabilities, with our ADHD, whatever it is we show up with. But when we show up, then the world shows up for us. And when we don't show up, it's like, that's not full bitachon. Like if I think to myself, I allow all the demons to scare me and I stay in my duvet and I don't show up and I still have bitachon, Hashem will help me. Yeah, it's nice that I have bitachon and good, it makes me feel good, but will the work show up on my doorstep? Not necessarily if I'm not brave enough to take those steps, whatever those steps are for me that day.
So, I mean, it's out of this context. So in terms of halachically, I just realized that I don't know if you went around us linked, but there was like take a Kabbalah for one of the soldiers. So the Kabbalah to light the candle 5 minutes before, but I haven't managed to respect it every day. I don't know if it was written Bli Neder. So does it mean that halachically I should go
Did you
and
say it out loud? Did you think it to yourself in your heart? Like, what was it?
you have to tick,
Yeah.
one of the Kabbalah, and then I couldn't do any of them. So you can put others, and I say, okay, I couldn't do 10 minutes. The list was 10 minutes before Shabbat, or I can't do 10 minutes. So I wrote down 5 minutes before Shabbat. So I'm just wondering, because once I didn't manage to do it, should I do an Nedarim, to cancel the Nedarim?
I think I'm not a rabbi. I think you have to ask everybody should have a person that they turn to ask about these things. I have my Rebbetzin is Joanne Dove, and I always ask her. But you should ask that Torah with these things.
Okay.
I don't think it's for me to say what you
No,
need.
no, that's what I think is outside the context. It just came to me.
But I would definitely, I feel the same, honestly. I've promised to say Tehillim for a soldier at this particular time every single day. And some days I can't do it at that particular time. So my little workaround, I'm a lawyer, so I'm always finding little loopholes, is that I try to do it every time I can. And when I can't, I say to myself, I will do those Tehillim and dedicate that time right now. And Hashem is beyond time, so please let him make it for that. Or if I'm doing a shiur and I'm in the middle of a shiur, I say, instead of the Tehillim, I'm dedicating the shiur to his thing. But maybe I should also ask about that. Look, we're all human and we all have a million things on our head, and there's no blame or judgment. But I think what this is trying to teach us is a way of showing up so that we understand how it works, that the thing is going to happen if we have the two elements. The one element being bitachon, and the other element being we do our bit. So it's not really that complicated. It's more about a question of, yeah, of course, there's all different degrees of how much we show up and do our bit and whether we can or not. And there is extenuating circumstances, even in a court of law, where you can show up and say, I tried and I just couldn't, that's okay. Hashem understands. But the principle is there. The principle is we have bitachon and we also have to do something physical in our actual world to facilitate that. Yeah, does that make sense to everybody? Ilana, is that sitting with you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm saying, does that make sense to you? Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so we've come to the end of that chapter. Shall I go on and do a little bit more, or should we just say Tehillim? Or is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think we could do it to Helen, if that's okay.
Okay, beautiful. See.
This one?
Should we do Yosef Seter Elyon?
Yeah.
So I can always remember that one's 91. I don't know why I remember that number. So let's do that one. 91. I also wanted to report the very good news that the girl that I was praying for is released. The little one who was 2 years old, and her sister Raz and their mom Doron. And then I said, okay, now I want to start davening for the other one also, Abigail Batsmadar. I was so upset that she hadn't been released yet. And today they told us that she's been released too. So, and then I was marching yesterday with the name of one girl who is called Noga, I think. And I heard that she's been released as well. So Baruch Hashem, our Tehillim and our efforts are working, our bitachon and our little actions are.
I had the same thing. I was holding one of them, Daphna, and then when we're in a tube, I looked at the text and she was released.
Baruch Hashem. So let's continue doing this because I'm sure it's working. I've heard so many beautiful stories about things like this. So let's just continue, and I think we're doing the right things. Yoshev b'seter elyon b'tzel shaddai yislonan. Omar ladonai machsi im tudasi Elohai evtach bo. Ki hu yatzilcha mipach yakush mizever havod. Ve'evar so yosech lach. V'tachat knafav tachzeh. Tina v'sochera amito. Lo tira mipachat laila mechetzi of yomam. מדבר באופל יהלוך, מכתב ישות צהריים. יפול מצדך 1000 ורבבה מימינך, אליך לא ייגש. רק בעיניך תביט ושולמת רשעים תראה. כי אתה אדוני מחסי, עליון שמת מעונך. לא תאונה אליך רעה ונגע לא יקרב באוהליך. כי מלאך יצווה לך לשמורך בכל דרכיך. על כפיים יישאונך פן תיגוף באבן רגליך. על שחל ופתן תדרוך, תרמוס כפיר ותנין. כי בי חשק ואפלתהו, אסגבהו כי ידע שמי. יקראני ואענהו. אמו אנוכי בצרה, אכלתהו ואכבדהו, אורך ימים אשביעהו ואראהו בישועתי. I did want to share actually one more thing with you on that subject. As we were marching, it was very quiet at the beginning, and I was there with two friends from Hendon. And I said, we should start singing. And then everybody else will start singing as well. And at the beginning, nobody wanted to sing. They were all very shy and British and looked awkward and embarrassed. So I started talking to the kids and saying, come on, you must know some Jewish songs that you do know. Let's find out. What did you learn anything in camp? Did you go to Israel ever? Do you know any Jewish songs? So slowly we got the kids singing, and then they got their mum singing, and slowly, and then started hundreds of people behind us. And it was so heartening. By the end of the march, we'd found some people who knew songs, the B'nai Akiva a lot, and a lot from Shul, and some people from, I don't know, Yisrael maybe. They were all marching together. We started singing Adon Olam together to the tune of Sharm el Sheikh, which is, I don't know if you know, but this was the song of one of the war songs of the Yom Kippur and the 6-Day War, where they conquered Sharm el Sheikh, which we then gave back. But Sharm el Sheikh is Egypt territory. And as we were singing Adon Olam, I noticed where we were. We were on the embankment, and we were literally passing by, that far away from me, Cleopatra's Needle and the Sphinx. And we were singing the words, V'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, v'hu yeh b'tevurah. And I lost it. I started shaking all up and down my body. I was like, Hashem is always with us. He was there before, he was there now, he's there in the future. We don't have to worry about anything. Egypt has come and gone, and so will this nation come and go. And, Adon Olam, words were so resonant. And as we started going under that bridge, there was like a tunnel that you go under. We started singing Ani Maamin. And the acoustics inside that tunnel was something else. The words were echoing all around us. And there was somebody filming, I think from Sky, I'm not sure from who. And we were just singing Ani Maamin and marching forward. And I realized that, we were in a tunnel. And I was just hoping that the words in our tunnel were echoing through all the tunnels in Gaza, and that somehow they were reverberating, and that the energy reached them, so that they would also feel the words and the intent of Ani Maamin. We believe Hashem is with us and protecting us all around. That's my prayer for today, and I'll leave you all with that.
That's beautiful. Very nice. I didn't go under the tunnel.
I wasn't going to go if not for the Muslim guy who told me he was going and meeting me there. And I was like, well, if he's going, I better go. I didn't want him to shame me. So he has a big zechut. Hang on, I'll stop.